as well as talking about our beautiful animals. But before we head on out, just a few little safety reminders. No eating or drinking whilst on tour. Water is absolutely fine to consume though. So if you've got any food, you can pop that away please till the end of the tour. Can everyone put their phones onto silent and refrain from taking any phone calls whilst out on tour as well. Children under the age of 4 are better off on your knee for a better view, but we do have some big bumps and potholes unfortunately due to all the rain. Hence why our safari tour is shortened today, but I can tell you more about that as we approach the area that we can't go over to, which is of course the savannah over the bridge. Now if anything falls out of the bus, don't be alarmed. Hopefully it's not a child, we don't want that to happen, so make sure they're off those railings. But if anything does fall over, I can't stop and get out and get it, just let me know at the end of the tour and we'll get our keeper to go and rescue it for you. There's a medical emergency, there's the phone number located at the front of your trailer. Just give that a ring and it will ring up here, connect your thing up here in the main cabin. Now apart from that, who's ready for their safari adventure today? Alrighty, let's go. Now there is a big bump on the right hand side, a big pothole, I can't avoid it. So if anyone's got a bit of a sore back, lean forward as we come through these gates. But we're coming into our arid habitat. Here we go. There it is. There's that big pothole. Now we do have to wait for gates to close as well, folks. We've got some cheeky animals that might escape. We might queue up at that safari station as well. And just a reminder that everybody must remain seated. Alrighty, so this is our arid habitat, everybody. Now if you want to take a look up to the right while we're waiting for the gates to close behind, you'll see there's some cars, there's a little bit of a building through those trees. That's our brand new veterinary hospital that was opened on the 26th of August. We had a partnership with the RSPCA and also some leftover funding. I don't know if you remember our bushfire relief fund. Well, we had some money left over, so we built a brand new wildlife hospital, which is pretty exciting. And that opened, as I mentioned, because we're taking in a lot of wildlife cases. So our vets here that are here 7 days a week are not only looking after our animals here, but also wildlife, injured wildlife that comes into the hospital. We had a cute little wombat here the other day, which was exciting. But what we're going to do is, these animals out to the right, which we'll meet in a minute, they're actually moving to another area of the zoo that's on our river road. And they're getting 4 times the amount of space, because this area here we're going to be filling with walking tracks that are going out behind that veterinary hospital, right out the back to a brand new habitat. It's going to be the elephant habitat. So all the Asian elephants are coming from Melbourne Zoo. They will be arriving mid-March, sorry not mid-March, mid-2024. Now the reason for the delay is because we've got 3 calves about to be born, which is pretty exciting. So we've got a new bull, his name was Luck Chai, and he got very lucky with 3 of the elephant females, and yes, they're about to be born. So we have to wait for them to be 12 months of age till we can crate train them and bring them all over. So there's 7 adults and 3 infants that will be coming, and all the new enclosure is being built with recycled goods. So it's beautiful old railway posts. The posts are going to be made out of the railway tracks, and then the wire fencing is going to be actually old recycled lift cabling. So that's all being donated, and it's going to be pretty exciting times here when they do come. So yes, this is the walking track. We're also going to have, other than a walking track, a brand new cable car that's going, a gondola. So that's going to be built right up the top of the savannah, come across the savannah and across the river. So we won't have issues if we flood again. We can get you still backwards and forwards. Anyhow, so exciting times ahead, but that gondola will end up over at the elephant enclosure. Now let's talk animals out to the left while we're here. I'll move up a little bit so everyone's got a good view. This is the scimitar horned oryx. You're looking at an animal, folks, that is extinct in the wild, sadly. So scimitar means sword. They've got incredible horns, but that's sadly why they were poached. So There's 15 zoos around the world that are actually breeding these animals in the hope that one day we might be able to do a release. They're from Central West Africa, a place called the Chad Desert. They've got a real superpower. They can go for up to 2 years without drinking water. Pretty amazing. Now, who thinks that they look like a little bit like a unicorn? Well, the ancient Egyptians thought that they were unicorns, and you can actually domesticate them. So they took them in as house pets, made all their neighbours jealous. Now, when they're born, they're very, very protective of their young. They are really small, the little ones. Thankfully, my mothers will appreciate this. They're born without horns, but they develop over time. They're born like a creamy colour, if any of your horse people, like a palomino. And as they mature, they get that beautiful russet and white coat. So they'll hide them all around here. We're not allowed to even take our deluxe safari vehicles off-road because they really do camouflage them quite well. Now, out to the right, I'll talk about the camels later. Out to the right, we've got our biggest success conservation story to date. This is the North American bison, folks. Pretty impressive. Now, most of them are only about 18 months old. They can get to about half a size bigger again. But these beautiful animals roamed in the millions in North America, but they were hunted down to 1,000. So they were on the brink of extinction. It was actually one of the former presidents of America, Teddy Roosevelt. He didn't go hunting one year. Instead, what he did is he set up a conservation fund, and they set aside an entire national park in North America. It's called Yellowstone, and it's their breeding ground today. And there's luckily 500,000 of them, so they have the right way of everything. A little bit like the sacred cows in India now. But thankfully they did, because otherwise they would not be here today. So moving forward, Zoos Victoria is all about conservation and the protection of a lot of animals. We have a fighting extinction program here that was called the FE28. It's now FE27. We brought one animal back from extinction, which is the eastern barred bandicoot. Did take us 15 years, but we got there, which was pretty exciting. And I was supposed to go trapping next week, and I can't because it's so wet in the areas that we've released them in. So we've just got to wait for them to go back, just to see how the population is going, because we do capture them. We do tag them all by a little injection with like similar what you do with your pets. We put a little microchip on them. We weigh them and we check that they're all really in perfect health. So it's very exciting, that bandicoot program. Now moving along, we've got our Mongolian wild horse. Now they're a true wild horse. They have never been domesticated. The Mongolian people are probably the best horsemen in the world, and they cannot domesticate these beautiful ponies. A lot of you are saying, oh yeah, come on, they're in a zoo, but they are not in any way domesticated here. We are hoping one day that we might be able to get them to the point where we can do a hoof trim, because at the moment we need to sedate them to do even a hoof trim. But back in the 80s, they were extinct in the wild. There was 20 left. So what they did is they took them off and they actually checked that they were all not too related, and they started to breed. Thankfully they did. There is now 2,000 of them in the Gobi Desert. Calling them Taki, it's their Mongolian name. They actually worship the ponies. They are protected. They believe that these horses were set aside as the mounts of their gods. When they released them, the 2,000 of them, which was a significant number, they actually didn't think about how they were going to behave as a herd, and it didn't quite work, so they had to gather them all up again. They took them all to France, and they let them go with deer, and the deer taught them how to become a herd. So then they gathered them up again, took them back to the Gobi Desert. So pretty exciting. Now you might be thinking, why do you still breed them here? 2,000 critically endangered, not a lot. So we do have breeders throughout the world. It's like an insurance policy. If something were to happen again, they used to be hunted for their meat, because the Gobi Desert is such an arid condition. But they're not allowed to do so anymore, so they are really quite protected. But again, we just want to keep the breed going, so why we do breed them as an insurance policy. Now going back to the camel in the middle, this is the dromedary camel, the Arabian camel. So they're originally from the Sahara Desert, so an African species, and one hunt is the dromedary. There is no wild dromedaries left in the world. And you'll be thinking, well, you've got a lot here in Australia. Yes, we do, but they are feral. Like the foxes, like rabbits, like cane toads, are an introduced species. They do have a devastation on our land. You can see they're a very big animal. So in the outback where they are released, they are breeding, and there's probably between 1 and 2 million of them. But they are a very unique animal. Like the oryx, they can go for a period of time without eating or drinking. And that hump, a lot of people think it's just water, but it's actually a food source. So when they eat and drink, it turns to this fatty substance, and they can utilise that themselves for up to 3 weeks, and hence why they were such an important part of when the Europeans settled. They were the two endearment ships of the desert, because they carted all their goods throughout back Australia. They've got a very unique foot system. You can see one walking, but I can't see any of the feet up close. But they've got a gel pad underneath, so it stops them sinking in that sand. They've got lots of different eyelids that they can close their eyelids if there was a sandstorm. And the same with their nostrils. So have a look at the camel's nostrils as we come past. You might be able to see another animal out here that's got a very similar nostril that can completely seal it, so that nothing gets in. Interesting though, they've got big, like, knee pads, because camels, if they're really steep sand dunes, they prefer to go up on their knees. So the animals remaining in here when we change the footprint of the arid area will be the camels and the oryx. And as I mentioned, all the other areas we're going to develop as beautiful walking trails to get out to that Asian elephant exhibit. Very exciting days ahead. Now some of you probably saw those great big balls out there too, they look like great big pool table balls. They're enrichment balls. So what we'll do, we've got an enrichment team here that come in, they're volunteers, I actually used to be one of them, and we create things for the animals to enrich their lives. But don't forget, we are a source of enrichment for all of our animals too. We're a moving picture for them, and we're also different noises, different smells every single day of their life. We have to be very careful what we do put in this particular habitat, because as you saw, the oryx have got horns and we don't want them to get caught on anything like that. Now folks, we've got to go through a little bit of water here, and in the water is the world's most dangerous animal. Yes, I can hear everybody yelling out hippos. We've got some clever people. They are the world's most dangerous animal. Not because they're naturally aggressive, but they're very protective of their babies and very protective of their territory, which is rivers. Now, in this habitat, we are going to get to see 2 of our females. We do have 5 females here. So everyone, this is Brindabella and Pansy. Now, Pansy is the youngest female hippo we've got. She's the one closest to us, a little bit smaller. And it looks like Brindabella didn't quite get out. Half of her bottom is hanging over the end. What a beautiful bottom it is. The female hippos can get to about 2 tonnes. Males can get to about 3 tonnes. They're pretty big. They live and spend most of their time in water. When they're asleep, because they do everything in the water, they can sleep for up to 15 minutes. And something in their brain triggers off and they have to float to the top to get a breath of air. But they've got the similar nostrils to the camel. They can seal them tightly off. They have been known to be in great big rivers, crossing for up to about 12 minutes. And when they've got their babies, the baby can't actually hold its breath for much longer than a minute. So you can imagine suckling is even quite a hard event for them. So the mother actually on the side of the bank rolls over, and as the baby comes to latch on, because it's all done underwater, she actually does a contraction and squirts milk straight into the hippo's mouth. So they don't have to work for it, because as I mentioned, they can only hold their breath for about a minute. So until they're fully developed and they can get across the river, that's when you'll find the females especially very, very aggressive and territorial. So the other 3 girls you'll visit around the African River Trail: Primrose, Lotus and Tulip. All lovely floral names. Now, another little bit of exciting news that I can reveal is that we are getting a male hippo. He's the only male in Australia, and with that, of course, we are going to be saying farewell to Brindabella and Pansy shortly. In the next 12 months, they'll be getting crate trained and they're moving to Monarto Zoo as part of their program. So we can't breed anything here unless we go through a stud book. Nothing is bred just for the sake of it, it's all bred with purpose. So Lotus and Tulip, hopefully, are going to be in the next few years introduced to our new male that we're getting. And we'll be getting hippo babies too. It's all happening here at Weeribee, I can assure you. Now we're coming into our second habitat. This is the Woodlands Waterhole. If you take a look out to the left, you'll see one of our female ostrich. Our feathered ladies. They're very funny, they cause a lot of hold-ups with buses. They love shiny objects. Some of you that have probably been out on tour have had an ostrich stop the bus before. And they particularly do it around this time because it is breeding season. Now we do have males here, but they're on the savannah, which of course I mentioned we cannot get to. We'll go past that and then you can have a little look at what happened to the bridge. But we don't breed them because they're not an endangered bird, but they are a magnificent bird and very different to our emus, which a lot of people mistake the females for. So the females ostrich, they of course lay the eggs, and they share the duty of raising the chicks and looking after the eggs. So the females are about 30 kilos lighter than a male. They can be just as fast. Those big wings that they've got are not for flying, they're actually for when they're running as a runner. But during the daytime, these girls, against the environment that they live in, will sit on the eggs, and even those white feathers underneath will protect and cover all those white eggs that are coming up on the right. And then at night time they hand the duty over to the males. They've got it all worked out, the females. They can go out and party while the boys look after the eggs and the chicks. But here's the eggs out here to the right, folks. So they'll lay them, they'll sit on them, they'll fluff them, and you're thinking, well, they're never ever going to hatch. No, they're not. But what we do is we'll gather them up and we'll offer them to some of our carnivores around the trails as a form of enrichment. Because 19 chicken eggs make up one ostrich egg. So we might even freeze them, and you'll see sometimes the lions get to have them and they absolutely adore them. And even into our ranger kids area, you'll see sometimes that you might see one in with our lizards or one within our snakes. They love crawling over them. And this waterhole, folks, is pretty unique as well. So we're in the city of Wyndham, and the city of Wyndham has also the treatment plant. Now, we've got a couple of bird nerds at the zoo, and they are part of the recording of native birds, and they've recorded up to 300 different varieties of birds. So, we are now #1 bird viewing in Australia. We've taken over from Kakadu National Park. So as you're walking the trails today, do look out for the native bird life. It's quite unique and beautiful. We even sometimes get pelicans in here as well. Got an ostrich, sitting down here having a little bit of a dust bath. Oh, she's just got up. And you'll see that there is another little animal coming up. This is a little antelope, folks. It's called an Indian black button. Very pretty. Now they're all females, except for one. See if you can see him. Here he is out the front. This is Lucky Keith, everybody. He's got all his girlfriends out here. And they are the 4th fastest antelope in the world. They can reach speeds of 85 kilometres an hour, which is pretty quick, making them the 6th fastest land animal. Now they are a form of gazelle, so they're really, really good jumpers as well. Now see, there's two metal poles out there. I talked about enrichment before. That's got a bit of a chain with the browse hanging through it. So these antelope are browse feeders, but we have basically made sure that they don't eat all the native species here. So we offer them browse on pretend trees like that. And also along the fence line you'll see a different one out there. Just move up because I'm not sure that everyone can see that, but that is a South African woodland species and it's called a nyala. And again, only the males have got horns. That's very, very pretty, and you can see that that coat's all stripy, so it acts as a little bit of a camouflage technique for them, which is pretty amazing. Now, if any of you spotted, there's a special little girl out there with the Indian black buck who's got a little set of horns. See if you can see her. And an interesting story about her is that she was a twin, and her twin was a brother. And when she was born, a little bit of testosterone crossed over, so she got a little bit of horns. She grew some little horns, and they're never going to develop quite like